We are.
This is who we are.
WAVR.
News, talk, music, get it all
24 hours
on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Cotonou. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at WADR.org. First, the top stories. Hundreds of residents trapped in Ghana as floods submerged parts of Accra following overnight rains. Our correspondent on the ground will provide the details. Reaction trails deliberation of constitutional reform bill in Senegal's National Assembly.
This revision is not a way of systemically transforming the country. It's just resolving a peculiar problem.
ECOWAS court orders Guinea to immediately release opposition leader Aliou Ba.
What is important for us is the principle. If justice has been served in favor of our president, regardless of the timing, it matters little.
Liberian opposition parties signal a coalition pact ahead of 2029 presidential election. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for being with us. We begin in Ghana, where hundreds of residents in the capital Accra and Greater region are reportedly trapped in their homes after severe flooding from heavy overnight rains on Sunday. Some families behind the Malam station are trapped in their homes as floodwaters overwhelm the community, forcing parents to carry children through dangerous waters in search of safety. The flooding has also resulted in heavy traffic congestion along the main Afienia-Tema road, disrupting the movement of commuters and motorists. Passengers and drivers are also reportedly trapped inside vehicles as floodwater submerged 8. However, there are reports of National Disaster Management Organization and the Ghana National Fire Service carrying out some rescue operation. Our correspondent Nadedetete is in Accra, Ghana, and following the situation. How are you doing, Nadedetete? Welcome to Newslink.
Thank you.
How are you doing, and how's your safety this afternoon?
Well, generally I'm safe, and the situation on the ground with regard to the flooding is that throughout the dawn of today, it's been raining. There had been an earlier warning from the Ghana Meteor Agency, and it said that it was going to be worsened by thunderstorms that were also a rainstorm coming from, Togo as well. But it's been heavy. We've seen areas like Chado, Malam, Dansoman, Kanishi, and other places, being submerged because of the downpour. It caused a lot of, gridlock in many parts because, many roads were flooded and people had to wait out for the water to recede before they could move, among other things. We've had the Ghana Armed Forces comprising the Navy, the military, and other relevant security services also stepping in. The Interior Ministry has come out to urge people to stay indoors and not necessarily rush through the flood waters to get to work or to get to school, among other things. Essentially asking people to prioritize their safety. When you go on social media, you see videos of homes that have been submerged. You see floodwaters carrying goods and stuff away, and people just holding on and trying to be sure that they are not caught up with the floods and, they getting hurt or losing their lives in the process.
Now, talking about losing of lives, what can we say about reports of injuries or loss of life so far?
Well, at the moment, it's early to know. It's too early to know whether people have been injured or, injured especially, or whether any lives have been lost, because most often we get to see this after the water has receded and the National Disaster Management Organization has done an assessment of the situation. So we'd have to wait for the day to wear out a bit for us to get a proper assessment from NADMO. Then we'll know whether, any lives or injuries, any lives have been lost or people have been injured. What we can see mostly around is that people have been displaced because we've had floodwaters going into the homes of people, some of them having to leave to move to higher grounds to be sure that the floodwaters don't carry them away. But from the immediate, what we can see is that properties have.
Well, it seems we've lost contact with Na Dedetete. I hope we'll get. Are you back, Na Dedetete? Are you getting me? Well, it seems we've totally lost control of or contact of Na Dedetete. We will keep in touch with her as the situation unfolds in Accra, Ghana, as a result of heavy downpour. Well, here in Senegal, lawmakers are deliberating on a proposed constitutional amendment bill today, introduced by the parliamentary group of the ruling PASTEF, that's PASTEF party. The legislative piece has triggered nationwide debate, while the executive arm is advocating for broader multi-stakeholder consultations before adoption. Several civil society coalitions are also opposing the amendment. Abdullahi Hassan gives the details in this report.
As the Senegalese government calls for dialogue before any constitutional revision, the parliamentary group of the ruling PASTEF party, which sponsored the bill, is standing firmly by its position. The president of the PASTEF parliamentary group, Ayib Daffy, has defended both the proposed legislation and the process followed in bringing it before parliament.
The present proposal aims to strengthen the rule of law, to rebalance state institutions, to reduce hyper-presidentialism, and to remain faithful as well as to the commitments made to the Senegalese people by PASTEF, both during the 2024 presidential election campaign and during the legislative election campaign.
Meanwhile, the President Diomaye coalition, one of the political alliances supporting President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has also urged broader consultations before the bill is adopted. Members of the coalition argue that pushing through constitutional changes without consensus would undermine democratic principles.
We denounce the practices that we deem unrefined and contrary to the democratic spirit on the part of the parliamentary majority, which seems to favor a logic of power dynamics to the detriment of consultation and consensus. We call for respect for institutions and for a transparent and inclusive debate.
Civil society groups have echoed those concerns, calling for an inclusive and consultative process. Baba Karba, president of the Forum of Justice, a citizens advocacy organization, says constitutional reforms should be based on national dialogue. Among the key provisions in the proposed constitutional amendment are the creation of a constitutional court, a reduction in the powers of the president, a legal definition of high treason, and a stricter asset declaration requirement for public officials.
Abdullahi Hassan fired that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, now let's take you to Mali in the Central Sahel region, where Human Rights Watch accuses Islamist armed groups, the Malian military and their allies of committing serious human rights abuses against civilians as fighting intensifies across the country. In a new report released today, the rights organization says the civilians have been killed, injured, displaced and targeted since coordinated attacks launched on April 25, 2026. The rights group alleges that these attacks were carried out by the Al-Qaeda-linked group for the support of Islam and Muslims, Jenin, alongside Tuareg fighters of the Azawad Liberation Front. Details with Sankula Janko.
According to the report, fighters of the Al-Qaeda-linked group for the support of Islam and Muslims, or Jenin, attacked civilian vehicles, burned more than 40 buses and trucks traveling toward Bamako, and carried out executions around the capital. The report also accuses the Malian armed forces of carrying out reprisals against Fulani communities in central Mali, killing dozens of civilians, including children. It further alleges that 2 military drone strikes in April and May hit civilian gatherings, leaving at least 22 people dead. Human Rights Watch says all parties to the conflict have violated international humanitarian law by failing to protect civilians. The organization is calling on independent investigations into alleged war crimes and is urging the United Nations and the African Union to support accountability efforts. The rights group says ending impunity is essential to breaking the cycle of violence that continues to affect communities across Mali.
Sankule Janko with those details. Meanwhile, the Malian Armed Forces announces the neutralization and dismantling of a major illegal fuel trafficking syndicate operating in the southern Sikasso region. Several high-profile suspects were apprehended during the synchronized raids, and an immense stockpile of black market petroleum products were recovered. Christopher Aticho gives the details.
The operation took place in Lobogola, a locality in Sekaskos region near the border with Côte d'Ivoire. Acting on human intelligence, Malian armed forces intercepted several trucks, allegedly transporting fuel through illegal channels. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces, security personnel seized 137 barrels and 300 jerrycans, each with a capacity of 25 liters, filled with fuel. They also recovered 65 empty barrels and 14 empty jerrycans. Several individuals suspected of belonging to the trafficking network were arrested during the operation. The military says an investigation has been launched to determine the origin of the fuel and identify other people connected to the network. The operation comes amid persistent fuel shortages affecting several regions of Mali. In recent months, the authorities have increased military escorts for fuel tankers in an effort to secure the transportation and distribution of petroleum products. Despite these measures, supply disruption continues in some areas, contributing to fuel shortages and the growth of a black market. The military says such trafficking networks may also be used to supply fuel to armed terrorist groups, enabling them to move personnel and carry out operations. The Malian Armed Forces says they will continue cracking down on illegal fuel trafficking and have urged the public to cooperate by reporting any suspicious activities linked to the illicit fuel trade.
Aliyu Cham's report from Bamako, presented by Christopher Aticho. Now to a judicial matter, the ECOWAS Court of Justice has ordered the Guinean state to immediately release prominent opposition leader Aliyu Ba, who has been held in detention for over a year. The regional bench ruled that Ba's arrest and prolonged captivity constituted a breach of his fundamental right to freedom of expression, subsequently ordering Conakry to pay a symbolic compensation of 1 million CFA francs to the victim. The verdict has sparked widespread celebration among members of his political party, the Liberal Democratic Movement, widely known as Model. Deborah Amuwo tells us more.
In its judgment, the ECOWAS Court of Justice found that the Guinean authorities violated Aliyu Ba's right to freedom of expression. The regional court therefore ordered his immediate release and directed the state to provide compensation for the violation, awarding him the symbolic amount of 1 CFA franc. The decision has been welcomed by the spokesperson of the Model Party, Moise Diawara, who described it as an important step in the pursuit of justice.
What is important for us is the principle. So, if justice has been served in favor of our president, regardless of the timing, it matters little. What is satisfying for us today is that our president, Aliyu Ba, has been exonerated by the ECOWAS Court of Justice. This is truly a significant step forward.
Speaking during the party's General Assembly held on Saturday on the outskirts of Conakry, Diawara urged supporters to remain calm and exercise restraint. He said the party's executive leadership would first review the judgment and await legal advice before deciding on its next course of action.
We take note of this decision, and we are waiting for the legal team of our president, Aliyu Ba, for comments and explanations regarding this decision that was made by the ECOWAS Court of Justice in order to fully appreciate its legal and political scope.
So far, neither Aliyu Ba's legal team nor lawyers representing the Guinean state have officially commented on the court's ruling. Aliyu Ba is currently serving a 2-year prison sentence after being convicted for insulting the head of state. The ECOWAS Court's decision now places fresh attention on the case and its implications for freedom of expression and the rule of law in Guinea.
Deborah Amuwa with the details of a report filed by Conakry correspondent Cheno Alpha Ibrahim Ambalde. You are listening to Newslink live on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Hundreds of residents trapped in Ghana as floods submerged parts of Accra following overnight rains. Reaction trails deliberation of constitutional reform bill at Senegal's National Assembly. ECOWAS court orders Guinea to immediately release opposition leader Aliyu Ba. Liberian opposition parties signal coalition pact ahead of 2029 general elections. We also have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Thank you for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Liberia's major opposition figures have publicly signaled their willingness to align ahead of general elections in 2029. The collective message was delivered over the weekend in Grangida County, southeast of the country, where the Congress for Democratic Change celebrated its 22nd anniversary. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Paco reports.
Speaking at the event, Edezana Cummins, political leader of the Alternative National Congress, accused the government of deepening political and travel divisions, interfering with democratic institutions, and undermining the rule of law. Also speaking, the political leader of the Movement for Progressive Change, Simon Freeman, echoed similar sentiments, telling supporters that the presence of multiple opposition leaders on one stage demonstrated that cooperation among political parties is possible.
Each of us have a plan to develop Liberia, but everybody cannot be president at the same time. We are willing to unite our visions.
For his part, Musa Hassan Belete acknowledged that opposition leaders have individual political ambitions, but insisted that no single leader can transform Liberia alone.
The unification of the opposition must be based around a guiding principle that a new Liberia will emerge and a leadership will emerge that will be based on the quality of the individual.
Meanwhile, former President George Weah argued that Liberians were promised economic recovery and national transformation, but instead are facing worsening hardship, business closures, and increasing political frustration. Although no formal coalition agreement was announced during the celebration, the joint appearance and consistent calls for opposition cooperation represent one of the clearest public signals that yet several opposition parties are positioning themselves for possible collaboration ahead of Liberia's presidential and legislative elections. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's travel to Abuja, Nigeria now for the press review of Yechenu Sasetu.
Greetings, and let's begin from Vanguard. Independent National Electoral Commission and political parties disagree over issuance of access codes. Going by INEC's 2027 general elections timelines, the access codes were to be released to the parties last Friday. National leader of the Nigeria Democratic Congress, Seriake Dixon, expresses confidence that President Bola Tinubu and the ruling All Progressives Congress would be defeated in the 2027 general elections if the polls are conducted freely and fairly. And now let's take a look at Guardian. Senate has defended passage of the Constitution with State Police Bill alteration, noting that the legislative initiative is purely a child of necessity and not of political expediency. Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors warns that it might embark on an industrial action if outstanding welfare and professional demands are not fully addressed within the next timeline. This is coming from the Nation newspaper. And finally, let's take a look at Punch. Top leaders of the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, and 76 foot soldiers, including their families, have surrendered to troops of Operation Hadinkai in the northeast region. And lastly, 1.34 million Nigerians denied UK visas in 21 years. This is according to data obtained by The Punch. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
That's Yechenu Sasetu of the Press Review from Abuja.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
The guest interview focuses on Senegal, where lawmakers are meeting in a parliamentary session today to deliberate on a proposed constitutional amendment bill. Among the proposed reforms are the creation of a constitutional court, an independent electoral body, stricter asset declaration rules, and a legal definition of high treason. However, the bill is generating reactions not only from civil society groups and opposition, but also from figures within the ruling coalition who argued that some provisions could concentrate power or undermine institutional balance. Our guest is Dr. Ibrahima Khan, a Senegalese governance expert who provides an analysis of the situation.
A parliament revising a constitution is not new in Senegal. Honestly, many changes in the constitution happen by the ruling party using its own majority at the parliament to change the provision of the constitution. But Senegal has also experienced different ways of changing the constitution, like in 1970, when Senghor wanted to recreate the position of prime minister. He organized a referendum to approve his decision because it was a big change in the political system to approve his decision, and then after this happened. The peculiarity of this particular attempt by the majority, the PASTEF majority, to change the constitution is that it is done at the time where there is really a big gap in terms of thinking, in terms of approaching issues, and in terms of looking at the state between the President of the Republic and his former prime minister, who is now the big speaker of the parliament.
Are you saying that there could be a nest of motive behind this revision?
That's what I'm trying to explain. Because if you look at the changes that the majority at the parliament is proposing at the moment, is mainly to reduce the power of the president. Power of the president to nominate people in position, power of the president to dissolve the parliament, and power of the president in its relationship with the prime minister. And all these elements, if you take them together, it's a change in regime. It's meaning that the presidential system that we had, even some constitutionalists call it the presidentialist system that we have, is being completely transformed in a parliamentarian system.
From a governance perspective, does this process provide sufficient democratic legitimacy, or should a referendum be considered essential for reforms of this magnitude if this bill is adopted by the National Assembly?
Well, when you ask this question, I think it's central to what PASTEF is proposing to the Senegalese society since it gained power in 2024. what Pastef was saying is a systemic transformation of the country. But it took them more than 2 years to even think about that systemic transformation. And the systemic transformation that we are seeing through this particular reform, it's not a systemic transformation that is they're calling. It's a way of resolving a political crisis that they have among themselves between the president of the party and the president of the republic. Because I'm not persuaded that the changes that they are introducing now, the day Sonko becomes president of the republic, that these norms and rules will remain. Because it will be stopping a future president for getting the power to do what he wants for the country. So for me, this revision, and that's where the criticism is not a way of systemically transforming the country, is just resolving a peculiar problem.
Dr. Ibrahim Khan is a Senegalese governance expert. And now in sports, Canada has reached the FIFA World Cup round of 16 for the first time after a dramatic 1-0 victory over South Africa in Los Angeles. The match looked headed for extra time before midfielder Steven Estiekwa fired home a stony long-range winner in stoppage time. The historic victory sends Canada into the round of 16, where they will face either the Netherlands or Morocco on July 4. South Africa's impressive campaign ends after reaching the knockout stage for the first time. Morocco takes on the Netherlands tonight at Matira Stadium in one of the standout matches of the FIFA World Cup round of 32. The Atlas Lions booked their place in the knockout stage after finishing second in Group C with 7 points, sealing qualification of a 4-2 victory over Haiti after their historic semi-final run in Qatar. In 2022, Morocco once again carries Africa's hopes of another deep World Cup campaign. And in today's FIFA World Cup fixtures, Brazil take on Japan at 5 p.m. with a place in the round of 16 at stake. Later tonight, Germany faces Paraguay as both sides battle for a spot in the next round. With South Africa now out of the tournament after their defeat to Canada, many African fans will be turning their attention to the late kick-off where Morocco takes on the Netherlands at 1 a.m. local time. And that's it for sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mohammed Sal for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.